This is the One Piece Podcast, episode 437 for the week of Monday, September 26, 2016. My name is Zach.
And my name is Ed.
And my name is Alex.
And on today's podcast, we have a very special guest translator for One Piece and Weekly Shonen Jump. We have Stephen Paul with us. Hey, Stephen.
Hey, guys. It is officially the season of crocodile here, which means 100-degree weather and 40 miles per hour wind gusts and bone dry. Fun times.
Gotta watch out for the warlord coming to steal all your water. Sorry, low-hanging fruit there. We also have a very special guest with us. You may know him as Minovsky's article on Twitter. His name is Casey in real life. How's it going, Casey?
Hey everybody, how's it going? I have my wine jug ready, and I'm ready to join the One Piece Podcast Grand Fleet.
I didn't know we were allowed to have a wine jug.
It's strictly BYOB.
Oh, okay. I should have known that. So, Casey, do you want to tell everyone out there a little bit about the adventure you've been on?
Yeah, I engaged in the adventure of trying to read all of the official translation of One Piece up to date. I challenged myself to do it within a year. I managed it within 10 months. Even though I say 10 months, I actually read from the beginning to Marineford. I looked back at my old tweets, and now I can clock this. I did that in a month and a half. So it really took me the remaining months to read all the timescape material.
If that says anything about the timescape.
Yeah, that might. And I'm sure we're going to get a lot of questions in the Piece Together segment, but I've got to ask here. I know already, a character that may have stuck out for you, but you could tell the audience here who may not know, but just, the best moment through that 10-month spree, the worst moment, and just what you feel about One Piece coming out of it.
Well, I'll start with why I did it, and there's a couple reasons for that. One, I'm primarily a comics commentator on Twitter, and that includes American comics, European comics, manga, etc. And I found that there was a real deficit with people talking about shonen fight manga, or really any manga in general that isn't Akira or Nausicaa. The big ones everybody's willing to recognize as great. Especially given One Piece's reputation globally and what a massive thing it is. I think it's a real shame if it's a blind spot with Western commentary, although you guys have done an excellent job at making sure that people know about it and are able to converse about it freely. And the other thing was that it's such a huge, daunting thing. Everybody says that when you get into it, I've heard a lot of people, and even I've probably said it in the past, I don't know if I can get into One Piece because it's so huge now. You feel like looking at this stack of 80 books that'll take up more than one shelf on a bookshelf, that it's not something you can start unless you were there from the beginning. And I'm here to tell you that a lot of that material is so excellent that it's going to breeze right by. And you can read it like nobody's business once you get in there. Especially that stretch between Alabasta and Marineford, I think is as strong a run as anybody's ever had on a comic.
Indeed.
So you asked me what my favorite
I asked you
things
like
were?
80 questions.
You did.
I'll work backward. Okay. So, I guess then you've gone through some of the positive. What was the hardest part for you to get through?
The hardest part? That's tough.
On the spot there. Okay.
Let me start with some more positive.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, let me do with some more positive first.
Yeah. No, I like that you weren't able to answer that question. That's good.
Well, I have some negatives for One Piece, but I don't feel like I fairly represent it unless I go into the things I really like about it first.
Please.
So one of the big positives, I think, is how restless a creator Ichiro Oda seems to be, and that nobody has told him that he can rest on his laurels a little bit. Because every arc has to be this completely different thing with stylistic art changes and setting changes and drastic. And you get a little bit of that in other shonen manga. I mean, Akira Toriyama's universe is this anarchic thing where dinosaurs and ninjas and cyborgs and aliens all exist side by side. And, and sometimes with things like Hunter x Hunter, there's suddenly an arc where they're, magically transported into a PS1 game. But One Piece truly is just one man unwilling to stand in one place for too long. As much as we might complain that some arcs last much too long, Dressrosa, I I think like it's just fascinating to watch. Like as maligned as Skypiea is, and I know not on this podcast. I know
we've done. We started off that way. I think we've done a lot to rehabilitate it since the beginning of the show.
Thriller bark too, yeah.
Really, well, exactly. But I think in retrospect, and perhaps I've had the benefit of being able to like marathon it. So these, I think whatever arc you get stuck in as your first weekly arc, you might look upon a little less kindly. And I think some arcs, perhaps on a week-to-week basis, aren't as strong as others. But like looking at something like Skypiea, and then looking at these immense like jungle backgrounds and ruins, and these huge spreads of multi-character battles, and you wonder how the heck Oda ever managed to do these things on a weekly basis without absolutely annihilating himself. And of course, we know that's exactly what he did, and he's practically inking in blood by the time Marineford comes out. But it's such a testament to what once in a generation creator he is, that he's been able to do that so consistently with small amounts of breaks, whereas people like Kentaro Miura of Berserk or Yoshihiro Tagashi can't do it without a 5-month break in between every big event, or every event at all.
Well, Oda knows he has to finish someday, so he has to power through it.
Exactly.
He's got this good schedule now with basically taking 1 week off per month. That helps.
At a minimum, I think we should allow that to happen. I mean, if you follow American comics, you know that you get 26 pages, and half of those are talking heads. And well, at least among the big two, indie comics aren't as guilty of that. But yeah, it's just such a journey. Like, I hate to say that because that sounds so corny, but the best parts of One Piece, and it's ensemble cast, and that's the other thing I really like about One Piece, is that no character seems to ever really be forgotten. Like, he always keeps the backlog of characters around. That all the world building seems like it has a purpose, and at least you're guaranteed to probably see your favorite character again. Maybe one or two will get left in the dust, but they'll probably end up on one of those galleries of the world intros or something at some point anyway.
Definitely.
Well, except for Don Krieg.
Well, yeah, except for Don Krieg.
I'm sure we'll see him soon.
Actually, now would be the time.
Yeah.
Actually, a friend of mine has a really wonderful theory about Don Krieg, and it's not really like a theory in the terms of plot, but just my friend B, Tyrant Grimalkin on Twitter, compared Don Krieg to like a guy who's good enough at a video game that he can dominate his local tournament, but as soon as he like tries to take any steps up, he's immediately squashed. So he just kind of hangs out this low-level area and just lords over everybody that's slightly weaker than him and thinks it's an accomplishment. And I really like that comparison.
A lot of the East Blue villains were kind of like that.
They were. But of course, the greatest villain of them all, Buggy the Clown, has failed upward spectacularly.
That he has.
Long may he reign.
Yes.
Charisma, man.
And so, yeah, I guess we'll get into my favorite character in One Piece, who I've talked about often on Twitter, and I will continue to talk about often, and hope that they return at any moment. And that would be Mr. 2 Bon Clay. Bon Clay was special to me because I first got to that chapter in Alabasta where Bon Clay is singing that song about being a man who is also a woman, and that makes him the strongest. I first read that chapter the day I came out as bisexual. And it was really interesting to see the sort of clownish, cartoonish character waltz in, but have that much self-confidence in who they were. And at first, I wasn't really sure, because a lot of manga and a lot of comics have queer-coded villains that are not too flattering. And from just looking at Bon, you might make that assumption too. But then, like very quickly within Alabasta, Oda establishes this character that's almost the statement of intent. And by the time Bon is making the speech in front of Hina and the Marines and in front of Luffy and the Straw Hats about being someone who may stray from the path of a man or may stray from the path of a woman, but will never stray from the path of humanity. I thought that was very sympathetic and really wonderfully done. And it was very impressive to me that none of the Straw Hats ever really call out any aspect of Bon's, character for being unusual. So I found an odd amount of heart in Oda's portrayal, and that only expanded in my favorite arc, which is Impel Down, which that's not just for Bon. I mean, you also have Buggy and Crocodile and all these other characters coming back, but you also have that wonderful like dungeon art that's going on in that arc. You have Magellan, who I think is just this immense, visually great villain who I'd love to see again.
Really one of the more underrated villains, I think, of One Piece.
Definitely.
I totally agree.
Sure.
I totally agree. But, and of course with Bon, you also get... see, I haven't heard most of these characters' names said out loud, so do correct me if I get the names wrong.
Well, now I'm curious.
well, I was going to say Ivankov, but I believe it's Ivankov.
Yeah, the second one.
Second
Right?
one, okay.
Well, Steven,
Ivankov,
it's really
yeah.
Steven's really the
Yeah,
first.
well, yeah, it's kind of weird because in Japanese, a lot of the V, like the sort of, I guess, Russian style V, turns into a W. So in Japanese, it's actually Iwankov, or actually Iwankov, like with an F. But I think in terms of like translating that into an anglicized pronunciation, everyone just calls him Ivankov.
Well, that's more Russian too. Ivan, or whatever.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean is when you say
Right.
Ivan in Japanese, they would be Iwan.
Okay, so Iwankov, I find the great pronunciation there. And again, that's another character that at first glance you think, oh, what is this going to be? And in reality, it's another character where you get that wonderful speech about, so your dad's a woman, get over it, deal with it. And then finding out that the roots of that character is a drag performer that Oda just happens to have affection for. And of course, the Rocky Horror Picture Show and Tim Curry and all that.
It's really unfortunate what ended up happening with the voice acting for that role.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. Yeah.
The sort of the more general Japanese culture was not accepting at all of that, and it actually seemed to be more about the tattoos.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who get blacklisted in Japanese entertainment that I understand from either marijuana possession or tattoos.
Yeah,
which is a real shame, but I know that Japan is not necessarily beyond what yaoi manga and the like might tell you, that Japan is not necessarily the most accepting of homosexuality, even in worldly terms. So I think it's really nice that a comic that's said to be aimed at children is so accepting of that. Although I do listen to other LGBT One Piece fans, and I've heard it expressed before that people wish that perhaps Oda would, if Oda's going to continue to do gay characters, maybe one of them isn't this like painted up drag clown. But I don't really know if that's really the aim, and I'm kind of just happy with what we have. And I happen to be a fan of drag culture. I mean, I say every anime season that RuPaul's Drag Race is the best anime of the season. So, yeah, I really love Bon Clay. I really bonded to that character, and I very, very, very much look forward to seeing what's coming next for them, because I don't believe that they're written out of the series forever. And
No one is.
No one is, exactly. And I actually did scream out loud when I got to that Decks of the World picture.
yeah.
Although that does get to a slight negative, which is, and I'm glad we're talking about a Year of Sanji chapter now, because I talked about what a good heart Oda seems to have in regards to gay rights, but I really hated whatever the heck that was going on with Sanji at was it Peach Island?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, the Kamabaka Queendom.
Yeah, the Kamabaki Queendom, which, I would have accepted it that seemed to have led to anything for Sanji, but so far it really hasn't, other than just some mean-spirited jokes. If in this arc Sanji breaks out, the skill to do really impressive kicks in, heels, I'll partially forgive.
Right.
Well, from what I understand, at one point, Sanji just became the butt of jokes, and children responded to it. So then he decided, oh, well, we need a cool character, so let's bring in Law. This is what I've just come to understand. Not 100% factually true, probably, but that's just my understanding of the situation.
Well, I'm glad that we're emerging from the point where Sanji is the butt of jokes necessarily, because I don't think he's been as cool as he's been since the Mr. Prince stuff in Alabasta for a long time.
Yeah,
And it came back again with during Water 7. The sea train stuff was again probably some of his best work. But after that, really, there hasn't been much for him.
Yeah.
No.
Thriller Bark for me is when he started to really like go downhill.
Well, and also being dragged down with the anchor that is Absalom, who's one of the worst. He's just the worst.
If not the worst.
Absalom is the worst character.
Yeah. Absalom's shit.
Yeah,
I hate Absalom.
We've all concluded that. Is there anything else, Casey, that you want to go through? I'm sure we'll have you on again to go through anything that you have missed.
Well, I'll go into a negative, and I'm sure this has been discussed on the show before, and I've expressed this on Twitter, and I know when I express this, sometimes I'll get quote tweets from people I don't even know that say things like, look at this guy judging Oda and his female body depiction.
Oh, boy, yeah.
Oh, you just spoiled what you were going to mention.
Well, I know, but that's the point of it. Like, I think that given how dynamic and drastic the differences in male silhouettes are for One Piece characters, I think it's a real shame that the niche female style has become this one very fetishized, extremely wasp-waisted image. Because we saw in Xiao Bode that it might not have said that right either.
I kind of like the way you said it.
That's
pretty close, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually, in my opinion, that's more accurate than how some people say it, which is Sabaudi. Which is
Shabandi, is that the other one?
Shabandi, I think, is the correct way to say it, right?
Yeah. That's the Japanese way, yeah, the Shabandi.
But yeah, well, I'm going to say Shabaude. But that arc showed us that Oda is capable of a greater range, and then the fact that he kind of went away from that and then did the same things again was slightly disappointing. But somebody pointed out to me well, what do you have to say about Big Mom? I'm glad that we do have a character like Big Mom. But again, it's not enough for me to say that I wouldn't read One Piece or I wouldn't recommend One Piece. It's just that I feel like Oda is such a dynamic creator that I expect better, and I don't think it's unreasonable to expect that.
It's a weird thing where he has this younger, attractive female body. Only one way to draw that. But although he does have more older, I think, female characters than a lot of shonen manga do, and he's able to draw them more differentially than younger women. But all the younger women, when they're supposed to be attractive, they really do kind of look alike. They become more alike as the series is going on.
I think Brule in the manga is a good example of a different silhouetted kind of woman, a different look.
Or Elder Nyon, or going back,
not Hero.
Correa.
I'm a big Dr. Correa fan.
Yeah.
She's great.
Dr. Correa is the best.
Voice of Goku.
So I think we'll definitely, Casey, pick up this conversation at some point in the future as well. Today we're going to be talking about manga chapter 840, The Iron Mask. We'll also go through episode 757 as the Zoe arc introduces a mammoth-sized surprise that I just ruined. And we have Sam, Jill, and Kelly on for that. We also have some Piece Together and a lot more. Are you guys ready to get started?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
This is the manga recap for chapter 840, The Iron Mask. Ed, what's going on? Actually, Alex, what's going on the front page here?
Oh, I don't know where he went off to, but perhaps I could be of some assistance. We see here, it's a request from Honey Liquor from Ibaraki. Chopper, Beppo, Kumasi, Hiking Bear, and Bartholomew Kuma are all eating honey, like Pooh Bear. That's me.
So, Stephen, I have to ask, and pretend that didn't just happen, is Winnie the Pooh, actually a character people know about in Japan?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
They love Winnie the Pooh. But they don't call him Winnie the Pooh. It's always like Kuma no Pooh-san, so it's always Pooh Bear.
God, that's so formal.
In Japanese. Yeah.
Man, and where's the woman who looks like the hiking bear? Where's Nikki Kuma Maria?
Yeah, where is she?
Yeah, she's
Bound to her.
yeah. Well, she's getting bowed at. I guess that's the.
Well, I like how
She's getting bowed at.
I like how the hiking bear here is actually bowing to eat the honey,
Yeah.
as is appropriate.
What
I
I
assume
love.
that the jug just has honey on it, Stephen.
Yeah.
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 I love the dive bombing bees in the background. That's amazing.
They're pissed.
Yeah, they are.
These guys are getting messed up.
And it appears the only one who's actually eating honey the way Winnie the Pooh normally eats it. Well, two. Beppo's finishing it off like Pooh normally does it, but Kumasi is the one who's got his mitts in the honey pot.
The Chopper does a little bit as well.
Yeah,
I really love Chopper's euphoric expression.
that's his That's his candy. His cotton candy O face.
Sugar is his gimmick.
This is he's in the sugar den right now. He's just passing out.
Okay, so anything else to discuss on this page?
I just
is
love
that-
seeing the hiking bear again. I love seeing the hiking bear.
Is that Kuma's happy face there? It's very hard to tell.
His tongue
Well,
is
it's-
sticking out.
It's a happy grimace.
I like how he's holding the honey pot like he holds his Bible just across his chest. Just
I was going to point out, this is maybe jumping ahead a little bit, but as far as the chapter title goes, I found out something kind of interesting, which is, the titular Iron Mask here is, obviously I think a lot of people think of the man in the Iron Mask, and interestingly enough, so the phrase that this is in Japanese is tekkamen, which just means Iron Mask. And that by itself is the title for the story of the man in the Iron Mask. So they'll use the phrase the man in, or the man of the Iron Mask, but often in most cases they just refer to it as the Iron Mask. And so I considered briefly calling it the boy in the Iron Mask, just to kind of play up the the parallels there, but I decided to go with with a more straightforward one. But that was something kind of interesting that I discovered in the course of working on this chapter.
Cool,
interesting.
Well, I was going to say, there's a lot of real French literary theming in this arc. We've had the animal musketeers from Zoe. We've had Cosette from Les Miserables.
Yep.
And now the Man in the Iron Mask reference. So clearly a Dumas fan, or at least a fan of the films based on the works of Dumas.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
Big DiCaprio fan.
I'm surprised Judge isn't a count of some sort.
Yeah. Visually speaking, the kind of the motif of the Vinsmoke family does seem to be very kind of Western European, like aristocratic look, like the blonde hair and the all that stuff.
Well, and their Lego castle and their Scandinavian flag and all the Nazi imagery.
Well, shocker imagery, not.
Yes.
A little of both. Let's be fair.
Yeah.
They're
all about genetic superiority, which we'll get into in this chapter.
Yeah, why don't we get started, Ed?
Yeah.
So time is standing still. You can see always the dust in the background when time stands still like this. Sanji exhales. He's shocked, and he's asking, or Yonji is sort of asking the rhetorical question. What's this? You ask. It's the source of terror for all nations. The soldiers of Germa 66, and they really, they pull out and show the entire room there. It's quite large, and Sanji's asking, why are they floating in water? It's actually a bioculture liquid, Yonji replies, and they all have the same face. Are they actually alive, Sanji asks. And Yonji tells him that, yes, human beings can be built.
How do you not know that, Sanji? Come on.
Yeah.
You know one.
For generations, even before this generation, Germa has been a nation of science, and believe it or not, our father is a brilliant scientist. Before we were born, he participated in a research team that skirted the law in a foreign territory, where he was studying and developing weapons with the great Dr. Vegapunk. Oh, shit.
Never heard of him.
Yeah. Well, finally, he's coming back.
Chill out, Ed. Take it down.
I will not chill out. I will beat up.
Vegapunk is not dead.
Or take a cold shower there, buddy.
Sanji's like, he was with Vegapunk, And Yonji replies, in his younger days at the time, Vegapunk's great discovery was the presence of bloodline elements in living things. Basically sounds like Vegapunk in this world discovered DNA.
Yep.
It was very nearly a step into the realm of godhood. He found the blueprints of life, and we see in the background there sort of allusions to things in the past, like creating humans, and also like the wolves from Impel Down are there.
So
And dinosaurs.
So instead of
Dino DNA.
so instead of Watson and Crick, it's Vegapunk and Judge. Just doesn't have the same tune.
Hey, and it's important that Caesar is still with them here, because obviously Caesar would have probably been there too.
Yeah. Just in terms of like some like story meta commentary here, I think so the bloodline elements thing was, I believe that was brought up it was mentioned by Law back in Punk Hazard for the first time, in reference to something Dr. Vegapunk had discovered. And you could kind of infer that it was probably something genetically related, but I think this sort of cements the idea that this is basically DNA genetics in the world of One Piece. And it's notable, as with lots of other things, that, Oda came up with his own like term for it, so that he's basically, shielded. He's made himself bulletproof from people going, well, that's not how genetics actually works, and he can say, it's not genetics, it's bloodline elements. It's this thing that I've made up for the world of One Piece. So, we kind of get the idea without having to necessarily be bound down by, certain rules about, what he wants to do to explain what they can do with these powers and so on.
It also makes me super curious to hear more just about Vegapunk and Judge's travels and a little bit more about that background. And I'm sure we'll talk about that toward the end of the recap. Alex.
That will be visited upon in a sitcom entitled Judge and Vegapunk, which only ran for 2 episodes.
Caesar is the wacky neighbor.
That's right.
Hey guys. Do we have the same exact? Okay, whatever.
Yeah. Like his catchphrase is, "You guys are a gas." Right,
I would watch this. Go ahead.
I would not. Yonji continues on, saying that the government felt threatened and by all of this and had arrested Vegapunk, which I think is super interesting, because now we know that Vegapunk, works for the world government, not under his own, choice.
At least maybe it was initially that way. I'm not sure how he feels now.
Well, I'm sure they supply him with funds. So
it makes it interesting, the stuff with Kuma that happened, now knowing that, Vegapunk wasn't always this, dog of the world government.
Yeah, so this is actually like giving us a little bit of light onto Vegapunk.
He wasn't always a state alchemist.
No. They said the research team disbanded, or should I say absorbed by the government, but Judge escaped their grasp and continued the research alone at Germa, and then more specifically the research into copying and augmenting life itself. So basically GMO, cloning, that kind of situation. So leading to the birth of that facility that you see there. And we pull out, and it's the same, more of the same. You see the clones and the giant double six, and you see more clone bottles in the back there too. I'm very interested to see what this is going to look like in the anime. I want to know if these are if that's like some sort of conveyor belt in the back. He says all the soldiers you see here are just copies of a few superior fighters. They're clones, basically. Although none of them have any idea about this, and we see all the clones having fun, getting hot.
That's the one right there that really does look like Virgo, right in the front there in the bottom.
Honestly, I think it's because he has the sunglasses, or the weird eyes, which aren't probably sunglasses. They might be visual receptors.
These guys are such dude bros. They're just dude broing it up over at the Dude Bro Hut.
Yeah, they're buying visors, and they're gonna play beer pong, and
they're V-neck muscle tees.
Yeah, you can't see it, but they're also wearing Birkenstock sandals. And they just got done a few rousing games of beer pong.
If you're an elite one of them, you get a popped collar.
That's true.
That's true. Yeah,
actually, that's exactly what Sanji and Yonji are wearing. Are the popped collar.
Oh no, it's like Sanji and his bros are the ultimate like
Yeah.
Sanji and his
Yeah. They're the
Well, but
ultimate
they-
bros. They're
Wearing, but they're still wearing kind of poofy shirts because they are pirates.
the puffy shirts. Yeah,
No,
I
no,
want to be a pirate.
they're not
Are we-
pirates yet, at least.
Are we
No.
sure that Sanji's not just being hazed to get into Vin Smokehouse?
Vin Smokehouse?
Yeah, part of the hazing ritual involves them ironically wearing puffy pirate shirts. Yonji
I mean, just to say, this is Frat Island. Let's make this clear.
yeah, Germa 66 is actually like it should be. I don't know what the equivalent of what's the Greek letter equivalent of 66. Well,
Are you
Germa
Greek?
Kappa Kappa.
I am Greek, but letters and numbers do not equate to each other. So all countries look upon our military forces with fear, not to mention admiration and desire. So it only makes sense, for the years our mighty subservient programmed to be fearless in the face of death and utterly faithful. So basically last chapter when I mentioned that they were already pre-programmed to use that wall technique that we've seen before. I'm right.
Look, Alex, I don't know about you, but the Scandinavian flag, or whichever one that is going to end up looking like, it just doesn't, it can't scare me. It can't put that fear into me because the Scandinavians are so kind and have such progressive health policies.
But the double six should
that's terrifying.
That's one six away from the number of the beast. So I feel like that should be enough to instill a little bit of fear in your heart.
True.
So he explains that if they die, they're easily replaced. Just like Attack of the Clones, it takes just 5 years to create a 20-year-old soldier.
What if he's just cribbing notes from Lucas at this point on the clothes?
I don't know. Let's ask George Lucas about that. Hey guys, how's it going? I'm here, George Lucas here. I came out of retirement. Okay. You haven't heard the last of me. Oh, maybe you have. And the military is the storage depot for all the clones. And as he continues, saying, "Oh, the process only takes 5 years," as they've all lived, basically he keeps reiterating it, like a broken record. And Sanji tells him to knock it off. And
look at that face he gives him.
That face, like oh, I got
knock it off.
Touched a nerve.
It's got, like 3 question marks in that picture right there.
Oh, right, because of the eyebrows.
Low blow, Stephen. Anyway,
I read Yanji's voice in my head as a Liquid Snake's voice from Metal Gear. This is very like inferior genes.
Oh yeah. Did you like my sunglasses, Sanji? Okay,
so we get a real dramatic close-up of Sanji yelling, "I'm going to be sick." And he, then of course he has to do a cool guy light up after such a dramatic exclamation. And then they say, "When we heard you were a pirate, Ichiji, Niji," they've arrived. "I thought maybe our little failure was actually growing up a bit, and it turned out you were as big a disappointment as ever." Yeah. So now all the bros have wandered into frame, and we get a big dramatic panel close up of that next page where they're just where Sanji just yells at Niji for walking within legs length of him, and then says, "You sick bastard! What did Cosette do?" And of course we get another flashback panel of Cosette's badly battered face. Which I think you guys touched on this in the last episode, but that really was quite a shocking development. As you're right, Oda doesn't typically depict female characters in that way. And so of course we have Niji's stunned face, and then we have Sanji doing the kind of kick only Sanji does, where he's an upside down helicopter.
Yeah.
So he crouched for long enough while smoking and built up his charge to do the spinning bird kick.
That's right.
And
you see him exhale a cloud of smoke as he kicks him in the face.
Yes, that's a really great.
Why
detail.
have we never called it the upside down helicopter? That's my question.
But yeah, and it just lots of close-ups of the brothers' faces while Niji gets caved in.
Ouch.
It's I don't know, made me feel very good to see that.
I want to see a lot more of that before this arc is over.
I think we will. So we see the impact on the next page as Sanji clears Niji straight across the room. His jaw looks slightly out of place there. And Sanji yells, "This is a grievous crime, and now you will pay for it." Sanji's ready to be the hero in a comic book. And as Niji cracks his jaw back into place, Ichiji reminds Sanji, hey, we got a hostage of yours. You might remember him. He was an old guy and he had no legs. And we see a little shot of Zeph there as Sanji suddenly remembers. And before he could do anything about it, stealth, and Niji is gone, and then suddenly he's behind you, and he grabs Sanji behind the neck, I guess is what you'd say, and says, oh, what's going on here? I guess you really like that kitchen maid, and then says, look, don't fight back, or then blood will run into the East Blue. I like how you wrote that one, Stephen. And we find out that Henry indeed has a needle. And
What is this, Stephen?
So Joseph Henry was one of the men who they sort of simultaneously discovered the properties of electrical induction. And so the standard unit of induction is the Henry, in honor of him. So it is, it's an electric move, basically.
So it wasn't all Benjamin Franklin.
No, it wasn't.
Anyway, we get this cool move, the Henry Needle, and it shoots electric bolts from within Sanji's now pregnant stomach.
It impales his spinal column.
It does not look pleasant.
That's a DBZ thing.
Yeah,
like, I'm gonna punch you, and it's gonna go it's gonna indent through your body.
Turn the manga you were tweeting earlier today, Stephen, the one that's second to last rank of the Japanese jump. With the spines that don't work that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Sanji's spine is getting worked over here, so
Sanji turns into a character from a much more poorly drawn manga.
And anyway, he herks in pain, and Niji comes in for another zap punch.
Zap!
And punches him to the ground. And he is imprinted onto the ground, and Niji explains, look, if I'd known that you were into her, I wouldn't have smashed her face. And Ichiji also saying, look, we can make her your personal servant if you don't mind her being seriously wounded. And they laugh and they cackle about it because it's fantastic, right, guys? Abuse?
This is hilarious.
Okay, let's move on, Alex.
Sure. Before we do, though, it's very I think last week we were discussing the possibility of maybe Reiju being the one to hurt Cosette, but turns out, nope.
It was exactly who they said it was.
Yeah, these guys are bastards.
Mm-hmm. That's fair.
So Ichiji says, welcome back to the Vinsmoke family, Sanji. Paraphrasing the Welcome Back Kotter theme song. I think it's high time we establish this the pecking order. And as Sanji goes into flashback mode, Ichiji says, you are a failure. And here we see Judge in front of his cool logo, telling all of his kids, listen up, you're my greatest masterpieces.
I love that transition. You are a failure to you are my greatest masterpieces. It just kind of sets up exactly what the whole thematic arc is here.
Yeah,
especially with that in between transition panel of Sanji's forlorn expression, and that he's not really happy with either of these.
Yeah. So by wielding the concentrated powers of advanced science, you were born to be greater than human. You'll be unbound by the foolish, naive ways of the world, grow to eventually lead your own military forces, and one day rule Germa 66 with the ever-evolving power of science.
Science!
Super science!
Science.
They all have to wear, what do you call them? Speed suits.
Speed
suits.
He's Bill Fudge, the science judge.
Oh God!
Or I guess it'd be Bill Nudge, right? Bill Nudge because Bill Nye.
No, it's Bill Fudge because it makes no sense.
Yeah, okay. And he basically tells them, I've given you these abilities, and the rest just comes down to discipline. So work hard, and they all, do their sir, yes sir, and time moves forward a bit, and Sanji looks on terrified as the children all jump jump off of the building basically, and land with a huge crash. But they seem to all land on their feet. And then we see them all running, and Sanji trailing behind, and they're running like superhuman speed, like a one Sonic the Hedgehog,
or that,
or Brooks style, where he shakes his legs really fast.
Yeah. Like
whoever's in fourth place there is doing like the Naruto run with his arms directly back.
I believe that's Yonji because he has the pointy thing on the back.
Yeah, Reiju's second there. I could see.
Yeah, Reiju seems to be second there, and then Sanji's of course trailing behind, and then
Yonji's in front for those ones.
And then they're hurdle jumping over
not Yonji
fire hurdles. Looks like Niji is doing a cool somersault over that one, while Sanji would do like any of us would do, unless I'm assuming that these are unusually high hurdles that are on fire. Yeah, so he seems to stumble and light himself aflame. Meanwhile, dudes with clipboards look on with ellipses.
What are we calling? This guy?
Yeah, I don't know, his bird perch lip there. This is the same doctor who was fixing Yonji's face in the present day.
Underlip. No.
Underlip, there you go.
Baron von Underlip.
Baron von Underlip. There you go. Go ahead, Casey.
Okay, so yeah, we have another a dialogueless page. And this is the all four of the kids who are not Sanji emerging safely from the water where they've been swimming, and then we see divers going down to pick up a drowning Sanji, and then airing out his greatly distended belly while the other brothers look on in disgust.
I think that's super funny, considering whenever Luffy or Chopper falls into the ocean, Sanji's usually the first one to go after them.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe he doesn't want anybody else to feel the shame he's felt.
Nice
guy.
Yeah.
Nice guy. And then we also see Sanji with a turtle in class as he's reading a book that just says science on the front.
I gotta be fair, cutest panel, I think, is this one wins.
Yes. Yes. Of course, then the brothers have to ruin it when Yanji kicks the turtle across the room while the other brothers smirk in the background. Sanji gets really cross about it and then gets knocked out by Yanji while the sea turtle looks on and sort of slow but sympathetic.
It's really got that Toriyama turtle face.
Very much. The slowly dawning sympathy for the boy that loved him. And then, so we also get a sword fight between Sanji and Niji. Sanji's sword instantly breaks on Niji after the first swing, and he's brutally beaten, perhaps explaining why he doesn't mess with swords. The brothers laugh. We also see Reiju initially shocked, and then we see her laugh in the next beat. The judge looks on, not too into it, while his manservant takes notes. And yeah, Yanji continues to beat on Sanji while a guard drags him away. That's enough, he's already dead.
Yeah, you get what we do on this podcast.
I was told I had to bring some Simpsons jokes, okay?
It's necessary.
You're
okay. So the final panel down here. Why is Sanji so weak? He lags far behind the other scores. We have the test results. Ichiji, Niji, and Yanji are making excellent progress. Interestingly, they don't mention Reiju there. Their exoskeletons are developing well. The numbers say their resilience and strength are equivalent to full-grown men. And of course, we see the Germa 66 fleet. With lots and lots of large transponder snails?
Yeah, that's their Lego ship. So each Lego piece has a transponder, or I don't know what you call it, a Germa snail.
Yes. With their little 66 mustaches.
Exactly. So, Steven, yeah, you're next.
All right, so the doctor here is explaining that it's kind of hard to say it's a very sensitive topic, I know, but Sanji he's basically a failure, and he says the manipulation of the bloodline elements, the DNA, should have worked for all four children, and yet somehow he is no different than the way he was born. So this would suggest that, like, you can basically mess, like at least
Genetically
I guess the implication.
engineer.
Yeah, the implication here is that, like maybe only when you're an infant or a young child is it able to, kind of to work on them afterwards. But basically, he is the same as he was when he was born, meaning that Sanji is nothing but a human. So essentially, the stuff they tried to do with him didn't take. And Judge is he looks like he's furious and shocked and a number of other things all at once, but it is not good news to him. And then we transition abruptly to a scene that we've heard mentioned before, where a little mouse, cute little mousey, has a giant plate of steaming food, and he's sniffing at it. And we see Sanji here. He's perusing some books. The one he has in his hand is the famous Noland the Liar, which is a nice callback because we first heard that story back in Jaya, and it was Sanji himself who kind of told the story to the rest of the Straw Hats.
And said he read it as a kid.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Very nice.
And as well, we see a Devil Fruit book next to him, which is also a callback to, I believe that was Thriller Bark, with the, as we mentioned in the intro, the kind of infamous Sanji Absalom stuff. I don't know if this is when he found out that he really wanted that invisibility fruit, but certainly he has the index there.
Well, and perhaps it's also Sanji sort of looking into a way that maybe, he could find a devil fruit and actually impress his dad.
Mm-hmm.
That too.
Or be invisible so he wouldn't get beaten on.
Yeah.
Yeah. He tells the mouse, go ahead, I cooked it for you, and the mouse is just chowing right down. And Sanji comes up. Apparently this is like the first time for everything, like something it's actually good. Is it good? He's really excited about that. And then Judge
the mouse is shocked about it, though. We should mention.
Yeah, he did not expect Sanji to just jump on him like that. And Judge barges into this looks like a study here, and he is furious that Sanji is cooking food for rats. Royalty does not serve. You do not toil. How many times do I have to tell you? And Sanji tries to make an excuse for himself, but Judge says, your mother is dead. Stop chasing her shadow. Which is interesting, and it certainly answers some questions I think we had about the nature of the cloning, perhaps, assuming this isn't a story, but whether or not his mother is a story or whether she actually lived. But this would seem to suggest that, yes, she was alive and Sanji had, a relationship with her. And Judge is just kind of laying down the law here. He's like, you're not like your siblings. You do not have any talent by birth, so you have to make up for that with sheer effort. Like every shonen sports hero, you have to work 10 times, 100 times as hard to make up the difference. And you're part of this bigger plan of mine. You do not let me down. So he is basically like he's the nightmare, vicariously living through his kid's dad here, who demands to be satisfied with their performance. And he picks up the tray of food and just throws it right through the window. And the poor little mousey just flying out the window. And he tells him, never cook again. And he's just traumatized. Poor little Sanji. He's crying and crying. And we will turn the page, and at the scene of yet another hazing here, Sanji with his siblings, and they're all laughing. Reiju's laughing as well. And then we find out, as she is apparently secretly helping, tend to his wounds, tie his head up, that I had to laugh along with them. I don't want to get picked on too. This isn't my problem. This is your problem, basically. And we jump ahead to the scientist noting, nope, no changes. Just no future promise whatsoever. And Judge is, what a waste of life. And you can definitely see in that moment, like now what we know about their existing relationship when Sanji was a kid, like why Judge would have been like, oh, now finally I have a use for you when this marriage offer came along in the present day. Because he saw nothing in Sanji originally. And then we cut ahead, and this is kind of like a very sick and twisted version of what we saw in Dressrosa with the princess and Kyros, where they quote unquote faked his death, but in this case, Judge is kind of hiding his secret shame. He is telling all of his soldiers that, alas, my son, one of my 5 promising children who were meant to lead Germa into the future together, has passed an unthinkable shipwreck. And we see the obedient soldiers shedding tears at this tragic occurrence. But we also see now that in some other location, looks like a storeroom or something, there's some barrels. Sanji, they've put the titular iron mask on him now, which is of course the mask that we saw in a flashback a few chapters ago. And he's confused. He doesn't know what's going on. And meanwhile, the kids, the siblings, have no idea what happened to him. If he's really dead, they decide we don't really care about him anyway. And Reiju again, kind of a knowing silence. And then she's got some ideas. She's thinking about this thing with Sanji. She's not buying this, I think. And then poor Sanji, locked up in his cage, and the guards are just walking away, and he's like, "Let me out! I don't want to be here. I'm scared. It's dark." He's kind of doing a little Morty there, and he wants dad. He's calling for his dad. Anyone who will help him. And the soldier turns back and says, "This was His Majesty's decision. He's going to make it so you were never born." And just another blow to poor little Sanji. And the tears are flowing because he just doesn't understand why. And "Let me out, please, Dad. I'm sorry for being born weak. Help me." And he's just, smacking on the bars futilely throughout the night. To be continued.
And on that happy note, that concludes 840. Let's go around. Thoughts on the chapter. Casey, you want to start?
Sure. This was the first chapter I read as it came out. Wow. So this is quite a milestone. So yeah, it's funny that I get to talk about the first one I've read out live on the show. So one of the things we brought up was the Man in the Iron Mask. And of course, there's also that was also based on a historical figure, an actual prisoner who was locked up and whose identity is unknown. He was given the name, I believe, and again, my French is even worse than my Japanese, but Eustache Dagar. And again, that's apparently an assumed name. But the idea behind the actual Man in the Iron Mask was that he was put in the Iron Mask, was not allowed to speak to anyone about anything except what he needed to survive, and then was expected to serve other prisoners. So he just had a life of service compared to a life of whatever it was he was intended to do. And of course, the literary versions, and particularly the film versions, which make the literary version a little sunnier, and in the book, Man in the Iron Mask, the Man in the Iron Mask is a deranged twin of King Louis XIV that's being released to assume his place on the throne, whereas in most of the film versions, including the DiCaprio one, the Man in the Iron Mask is a good twin for an evil king who, when released by the Three Musketeers in their final adventure, will assume the throne and lead France to prosperity. I do think that might be semi-significant, just given all the imagery we get. But one of the things that really struck me about this particular chapter, beyond just how awful the brothers are and the sort of muted sympathies of Reiju, was the Judge's total hatred for Sanji's weakness. And And I do wonder if, eventually, especially because we know he's genetically bred, presumably genetically bred most of these kids, or at least altered them to be superhuman. But when he gives Sanji that speech about because he's not like them, he has to work 100 times as hard to make up the difference. It almost makes me wonder if perhaps Judge sees his own weakness in Sanji.
Well, yeah, because he learned the tricks of genetic manipulation, so he wouldn't have it himself.
Right. Yeah. So he does. So exactly. So he's altered it. He's altered himself. But I almost wonder if we'll get some throwaway later talking about the Judge's own weakness, as villains in One Piece tend to get at least a slight moment of sympathy before they're dealt with. So I'm very curious to see how the Vegapunk and Judge stuff will play out later, if we get that at all.
Cool. Steven.
Let's see. Yeah, that I think that definitely covers at least as far as the sort of the man in the iron mask parallels pretty well. Let's see. What else is there to talk about? I think it was a good follow up to at least the first part of this chapter. Where he's confronting them about what they did to Cosette. It was a good bookend to that scene where it really drives home the despicable nature of the brothers. It's very clear that there isn't. There does not seem to be, aside from again possibly Reiju, there does not seem to be like a sympathetic core lurking somewhere within them. They seem very just cruel and petty in their own ways, and so that was, I think, a effective framing of their the role that they serve. Other than that, it's pretty good. I think clearly there's more to this this flashback story. We still don't really know what the nature of Sanji and his mother's relationship is. Now that that's been openly mentioned. So there's more to see about that, and certainly there's something with Reiju as well. Mm-hmm. I think the expectation perhaps, or the thing that we may be looking forward to is, okay, now does this mean, given that he clearly was very close to his mother. Obviously, Judge was not the type to give him any warmth whatsoever. So the presence of his mother, and then the fact that Reiju treats him slightly differently than the other brothers, does this play into like some deep-seated feminine issues that Sanji has? Since that's something we've been keeping an eye on, and this certainly sets us up for something like that, I think. So it will remain to be seen how much Oda goes towards that particular angle, but that's kind of something that I'm looking at as we go forward.
Trying to rationalize some of Sanji's more disgusting tendencies.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't necessarily have used that word, but
explain maybe.
Something that puts into perspective that he definitely has different views on the genders, as opposed to like Luffy, who clearly has no barrier whatsoever between everyone is just either a friend or an enemy, and stuff like that.
Yeah, Luffy doesn't really have much of a concept of gender, does he?
Exactly.
He doesn't have much of a concept of a lot of things.
Alex, what did you think?
I thought this was a great chapter. I'm very curious as to what else is going to go on in it in terms of this flashback. I'm very pleased that we got Sanji's flashback so early. Actually, I wasn't expecting it this early. So it's good that Oda's getting right down to it.
Let me ask you, just because you were talking about the flashback, do you think it continues directly in the next chapter, or does it go back to the present? Because we end the chapter in the flashback.
I think we stay in it. We could ask Steven, he knows the answer.
No, well, I'm sure that we're going to stay in it. I mean, that's how we usually deal with
during Zoe.
flashbacks.
I mean,
well, Zoe's different because that story is being told to them.
Right, that makes sense.
And yeah, I just had to hammer in the fact that this is still a story that's being told to them. So, the thing that interests me the most is Sanji's mother, or perhaps just the subject of Sanji's mother being brought up. Couple that with Reiju. Reiju, by all accounts, is the eldest, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right, it would seem that way. I mean, she definitely has the zero. If it wasn't obvious by now, the picture of all of them together, where it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4.
And if she had been male, she would have been 1.
Yeah,
probably, yeah. Although I always wondered if they were actually just quadruplets, like cloned, created at the same time.
See, I don't know if they were cloned, but they were. That's still up in the air. But they're definitely GMOs.
Yeah,
genetically modified organisms. Which accounts for, of course, their powers. I have yet to see, we've yet to see, Yonji's titular wince power, which I'm very, very curious about.
Winch.
What did I say?
Wince.
That I did.
no, that's my superpower.
I wince.
Oh,
I wince anytime Yonji does anything ridiculous. No, yeah, I think I'm of the opinion that Reiju, of course, was born first, and I think she might be one of the only. I think she seems superhuman, but I don't know if she was modified in utero like the others seem to be. Not sure if that's going to get touched on, but the Vegapunk stuff I liked a lot, and yeah, I think I mostly just mentioned everything I liked throughout the chapter. I am admittedly a little bit disappointed though that it seems that Reiju is going to be the
good girl.
Right. Yeah, the ally. Like I said last podcast, when we had to choose between ally or piece of shit, I said I want piece of shit, but it's probably ally.
Yeah, looks that way. I think I'm going to probably be very wrong here.
To use that piece together. Listeners' terms.
Now, I didn't think I'd be proven wrong so quickly, but it happens. Ed, what were your thoughts?
Well, you guys have really expressed most of it so far, but the thing that I want to add is really just showing how, and the brothers really exemplify all of Oda's sort of extremist tendencies in writing royalty. Like they are all the bad excesses of royalty. They're cruel. They're capricious. They're flippant and arrogant, and it really just showing how rare it is to have a noble royalty in the world of One Piece. Besides that, I'm also very interested in how the Caesar Vegapunk Judge history goes, because Caesar's going to run into Judge at some point. They're going to reminisce about like he was his big fraternity brother or something.
Well, the question is, does Caesar start working for Vegapunk after all this or before? I think that's also probably a good question.
Unclear, but I have what I want to believe.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you.
That actually brings up like when Sanji eventually meets Vegapunk at some point, they're probably going to have some words.
Yeah, we don't know what kind of words, but certainly words will be had.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Ed. Anything else?
No, that was pretty much it. Although you can really see how besides angry, disdainful Judge is, not as angry, more disappointed and disdainful.
Yeah, and there's something I wanted to bring up that I don't think has come up. I haven't been going around the Reddit and AP and stuff, so I don't know if this is a theory that's around in the community. But considering that, I think I agree with Alex that they are genetically modified humans, genetically modified organisms, and not clones. Maybe both, but my tendency is that they're just genetically modified. In my opinion, I think by the end of this arc, we'll see Sanji's genetic modification kick in for whatever reason. That's my crazy shonen theory, because it just seems to fit that so well.
What if he already has it with Diablo Jump? I mean, I figured that he ignited his foot via friction. I mean, because it's never really fully explained, but he spins around really fast and it just kind of lights his foot on fire. But That might be his genetic modification because we have lightning, sparking, poison, winch. So
well,
I
I
don't know.
mean, the genetic modification, I think, is just the superhuman tendency. So who even knows if that's how that comes out in a power? I for some reason I thought that was just the like some sort of technology hooked onto their feet, like with Judge.
Oh,
But it might not be. It might, maybe they just have special electricity powers for whatever reason. So I don't know. I'm putting it out there because I think that would be a cool kind of shonen tropish kind of thing. It was within you the whole time, and now he's a super Sanji.
Yeah, but also on the other hand, it's like that aspect, like that very thing that sets him apart from
True.
like his brothers and his dad is like the thing that he hates, and it's the thing that's being depicted as used for evil, and is like his humanity. This is very corny, but his humanity is what makes him special among them, because he actually has a conscience and stuff like that. So I don't know. I feel like you could also argue that would be a little bit disappointing, that it's like, oh, well, I get to keep the nifty powers, but also be a good guy.
Or it could be like a dramatic irony thing. Like, at this point, my father would accept me, but screw him. Basically.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I wouldn't want it to turn into this like Sanji's internal angst thing where it's like every time I use these powers, I have to think about him or something.
I don't.
But like,
yeah.
But say he beats up the other brothers. Is his dad then gonna go, "Hey, maybe you are my best son. Join me."
He would, and then Sanji would beat him up, and then he'd take the kingdom with him, and then they'd go fight the final war and all this stuff, and whatever. Whatever happens at the end of One Piece, I don't know yet. I look, that's interesting. The Reiju stuff, I'm disappointed that I was wrong, but I still am very interested to see what happens. I like how Oda tied in a lot of the Nolan stuff. I thought that was super cool, and kind of just Sanji's, start with cooking and stuff before, Zeph and before all that. I thought it was very neat foreshadowing, in kind of reverse foreshadowing. I don't know what you want to call it. That in the flashback, they said Sanji died in a shipwreck when he actually got in a shipwreck and almost died, with Zeph, back in the day. And I think in general, this was a really cool chapter. It definitely sets up the power struggle to come. It's interesting that Ichiji is the only one who wears a different outfit, both in the present and the past. And also just the fact that Reiju is kind of the side element, but it seems like Ichiji is going to be the strongest, no matter what here.
Something else I wanted to bring up actually was where the guy was talking about their exoskeletons.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell that was. Yeah.
So I mean,
well,
it's
we
like
kind
the
of see that
bud
with the sword getting broken over the Niji.
Yeah.
And Ichi's and Yonji's head being smashed back into place in a vice.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but they mentioned that Ichiji, Niji, and Yonji are the ones with exoskeletons. So does that mean that Reiju does not?
I would presume so.
That she's not completely superhuman?
Yeah, I noticed that too, where they don't mention Reiju among the lineup of the progression. So I wonder if she's even that altered beyond the poison ability we've seen.
I wonder how connected she is to their mother as well.
I have a lot of questions about that.
I think she's probably kind of like the standout, like what the hell's going on here, which is always interesting, and we'll see that next week. But for now, why don't we get into the anime recap? Are you guys ready?
Sure am.
Mm-hmm.
This is the anime recap for episode 757, A Threat Descends, The Beast Pirates, Jack. I'm your host, Sam, and today with us we have editorial writer for the site. We have our good friend Jill with us today. How's it going, Jill?
Oh, it's good. Just, being really excited that I can say the word anime correctly.
You jerk. And also with us is the site's merchandise reporter, Kelly. How's it going, Kelly?
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing all right. Just running through the staff credits real quick. The screenplay this week is by Atsuhiro Tomioka. The episode director and storyboard artist is Yoshihiro Ueda. And animation director is Masayuki Takagi. I had no trouble saying those names, but for some reason we had to do like the opening blurb like a million times just because I couldn't say the word anime right. Anyway. Anyway, the episode opens with some soft piano music as Law follows his favorite card to his crew. We see Beppo sort of emerge from the trees, and he charges at him and hugs him, and the whole crew are all there happy to see him. They're going, Captain! Beppo talks about being amazed about the news that he heard regarding Doflamingo and Luffy and Law's fight in Dressrosa. We come back to Luffy's group, who are following Wanda on their way to see the Duke Dogstorm. Luffy runs off on his own and starts going after like all the giant fruit hanging around the island. He's like sticking a straw into giant grapes so he can drink from them, which I don't know. That can't be that bad of a drink, really. We see him. Like,
I don't blame him.
Yeah, we see him like hang upside down like a monkey. Wanda starts to tell the story about the destroyed city that was caused by Kaido's men. First, we enter this flashback. Everything's all happy. We see all these different minks going about their day. This is a really interesting scene because we see a ton of very different kinds of minks. Like we see a giraffe mink. We get like a horseman selling fish. It's a really interesting like look at the daily life of minks that we don't really get in the manga that much. And
yeah, I really love this scene.
Yeah, I don't know, just like something really interesting about it that just grabbed me a lot. Then, obviously with all this happiness going around, things have to take a turn for the worst, and Jack the Mammoth starts like pounding at the gate, and Kaido's men are trying to burst through into the city where the raiding bells are ringing, and throughout the episode they're constantly talking about how rare of an occurrence that is. And some of the younger people who live here are even having to be told by the adults like what that raiding bell even means.
When the whole scene where Jack is pounding on the gates, I don't know if I like it or not, because they don't even, when originally you just see the gates being slammed over and over, you don't even see anything. It just looks like they're empty. And there was a moment where it was like an outline of his face, and I thought for some reason I was like, oh, is he using hockey just randomly to attack the gates? And then they zoomed in on his trunk, which I guess makes sense, but it was like really oddly placed without any kind of like silhouette or something.
It did look a little weird.
Yeah, I didn't pick up on that. I don't think that bugged me too much. This is when so Wanda's continuing to tell the story, and she's talking about how Zunisha roared as these intruders attacked, and Zunisha kind of seems like it's in pain or it's worried about something. Wanda continues to say, if our vicious enemies want something that we don't have, how can we give it to them? And then we get to see the full view of the mammoth, Jack, entering the place. And he looks kind of silly with his braids and his blonde hair.
Yeah, you brought it up last week on the Heart of Gold, or 2 weeks ago, whenever. You did the Heart of Gold breakdown. You're talking about how Oda's villains always, like, they'll look really intimidating, but there's always something kooky that make them, like, Oda's villains.
Yeah.
And it's this blonde braids on the stupid mammoth. I just burst out laughing, because seeing it in black and white is one thing, but when it's, like, bright colors and blonde, it's beautiful.
Yeah. I found it interesting that the minks recognized the mammoth as a prehistoric animal. So that puts him sort of in it puts the mammoth fruit in sort of the vein of Drake's T-Rex.
Do you think there were prehistoric minks before?
Did
they evolve?
There's a lot that we don't know about minks and their relationship with like regular animals in the One Piece world, and whether they're different or. And so Jack is talking about how he is looking for Raizo the ninja, and Jack's underlings are starting to sort of just announce him to the minks, saying that this is Jack, known as Jack the Drought. He's one of Kaido's three top henchmen who are known as the Disasters. And we see this weird little scene where Jinrumi and Sheepshead are getting into like this weird argument over whether a ninja constitutes as a samurai or not. And it's determined in this scene that it's basically like how all thumbs are fingers, but not all fingers are thumbs, ninjas are samurai. I thought this scene was a little weirdly directed because like the super dramatic music just continues to play, and then they have this conversation that's basically just to explain a bit of lore to the audience, like sort of explaining the basics of that sort of dynamic between samurais and the rest of the world.
I mean, I can kind of understand because it's kind of showing how casual they are about the whole thing.
Mhm.
They're like, oh, they can just kind of mess with each other and stuff. Meanwhile, the Minks are like getting destroyed, or they're about to like go into this tense showdown.
Because they don't look at them as a threat at all at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know, I thought that little conversation was more about just sort of explaining something to the audience more than anything. Coming back to the present, Luffy is talking about how exciting the story is because there's a mammoth in it, and Usopp's like hitting him like, that's not the part you're supposed to think is interesting. And then,
See, I'm more shocked that Luffy knows what a mammoth is than the Minks do.
right, this is something I think about a lot in One Piece. Like there are probably you would think there would be like a basic normal animals that like you wouldn't have heard about in the One Piece world just because of the way the world is built. But I don't know. It just seems like all animals are pretty familiar to all people. We get introduced to the sort of lower rung henchmen there of Jack's group, which are referred to as the Pleasures, and they pick a fight with this like little kid and a mom mink. And what kind of species are they? They almost look like a kangaroo or something.
I was gonna say either like a fox or a wolf child. Like I don't know what's happening
There's
there.
some kind of fox, cat, rodent looking people. Anyway, they get into this fight, and like the kid and the mom, they both like kick ass. We see a big fight between the minks and the pirates, and there's all this electro going around. And the baboon mink is explaining, we have no weaklings in this country. All of us minks are born to be gifted fighters. Even a baby knows how to defend himself, which is an interesting thing about the minks.
Yeah, I brought this up on Twitter just because it interests me. They've been isolated for so long because they just live on top of Zunisha. And also, they seem to love everyone. They call humans lesser minks. It doesn't seem like they have any issue with any of the races. And yet, they evolved to be natural warriors. There's something in their past that caused that. I mean, Oda could just hand wave it and be like, Electro, Animal Instinct, and all that stuff. But I would think that there has to have been some kind of ability or wars or something in the past that caused them to become this.
Also, the Pleasures, surprising to no one, seem to enjoy getting beat up. They're those kinds of fellows. This is when we are introduced to the next sort of group of pirates called the Gifters, and there's like a weird sudden art change here, where like the shading is a lot more gradient than normal. I don't know why that was, but it stood out to me. And then we come back to the present. They're still walking on their way to see the Duke Dogstorm. Luffy starts shaking the bridge and really just annoying everyone.
He's such a child. I mean, I do the same thing, but like, come on.
Then they continue the conversation, and they're talking about Raizo, the ninja, and samurai, and all that. And just when everyone's like, "Okay, remember, guys, you're not supposed to talk about the samurai around the mink," and then immediately Luffy's like, "Oh, hey, I wonder if I can't remember what he's exactly said, but he brings up Kinemon and the other samurai, and he makes it clear that he's familiar with some samurai in his life, and everyone in the crew is sort of freaking out, like, "Oh no, how the hell could you do that to us? Like, you just did the one thing we told you not to do." And Wanda turns, and she seems kind of surprised, and we don't know exactly what her reaction is going to be yet. And that's when we get the boom to be continued. General thoughts on the episode, you guys?
I thought it was pretty good. I think the Heart Pirates reunion was surprisingly touching. It was really brief in the manga, and they added a little bit, especially the voice acting. I thought was really well done. And
I do like I always like the touch with the Heart Pirates reunion where Beppo jumps on Law and he's like hugging Law, but Beppo's like so much bigger than Law is. And Law's,
they
like,
had to
standing there
show
holding
Law
him up.
straightening up.
Yeah.
That was cute.
Any scene with Law and Beppo, I love.
Oh yeah. I cannot wait to see more of the Heart Pirates. I love that crew. They're so like goofy with Law's just like so his stoicness that you can see how much Corazon has like rubbed off on him. Also my favorite part of the of this episode was the borderline like the expanded scene of like the minks just going out their daily lives. Because I just think that's so interesting because you see it's a completely different race on this isolated place. You see how they lived. You see the different kinds of like minks that there are and how they go about their days. And I just thought that was really cool to see.
Yeah, I really like that too. I love that slice of life stuff, especially that one scene where the giraffe is talking to the woman about having tea later, and then they pan out and you can see how that he's basically on the ground and just sticking his head over her like balcony. I thought that was really great.
Yeah, I like to think he has to have like this really tall ceiling.
Absolutely.
And like, but like, I don't know how long his arms are, so he'd have to like bend over to drink the tea. It would be great.
Yeah, I thought the episode was kind of okay. I was kind of hoping it to be a little more exciting than it was. I mean, like, because I loved the first 3 episodes or so of Zoe so much, and now we're kind of back to just kind of average episodes.
I think the beginning half was a lot. I think the beginning was a lot stronger than the end. I think up to the fight was really, really good.
Yeah.
But I think they kind of downplayed a lot of it.
Yeah, I found the fight, especially the fight with that kid and the mom. I thought that was like a very entertaining thing. And that was definitely the highlight of the episode. It's just kind of a slow episode where not quite as much happens. I'm excited. I'm more excited about some of the upcoming stuff with Jack, more than I was excited about this particular scene in the first place. So I guess it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, I did like the fighting. I thought it was just like a good introduction to the minks. Like we showed them as like just as like how they lived, and then we showed how they fought and defended their country. And I also like that they used like Sanji sound effects when the mink mother twirled for her electro. The way he does Jamba Jamba. That was cool.
That was really good. Also, really digging the voice acting for Sheepshead and Jinrami and Jack.
Yeah.
They picked really good voices for those characters, so I really like actually hearing them talk.
All right. Any last thoughts, you guys?
Just excited to see what comes up next.
All right. So I think that's a good time to say thank you guys for coming, and we'll move on to the next segment.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.
This is the Piece Together segment where we take your questions, comments, and theories, and then Baron von Underlip judges whether or not they're human or not. And we have him here with us today, of course. Everyone's still here with us. Casey, Alex, Ed, Steven, and myself. Hey, everyone.
Hello.
Hey.
First email comes from Shelly, who says that every time it comes up as a plot device, I get more surprised that Big Mom has agreed to help the Vinsmokes hold Sanji hostage for the wedding. I would have thought that she'd be insulted, given the family failure, and surely demanding another son is easier than cuffing this one. In addition to backgrounding him for a weakness to exploit, etc. So, yeah, what do you think about using Sanji here, I guess, is the question. Or how Big Mom would think about it. I don't think she just knows anything about this, I think.
Yeah, I get the feeling that she doesn't really care about Sanji himself. Like, it's the political marriage, so it's all about what she gets out of it. And I don't feel like Sanji is being necessarily hailed as a major get. I think it's more about the Germa.
Yeah, Big Mom seems. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Big Mom seems motivated purely by reward, so I don't really think she cares about the means.
Right.
I mean, if she really cared that much about each one of her children, she wouldn't have like taken one's life away, or had 50 whatever children.
True.
Right.
Tony has a question. Do you think this? Do you think Germa's 666 is a fun reference to Order 66?
Oh,
I sure hope so.
I didn't actually we made the joke, Germa's Order 66 like as soon as we heard it, but it didn't occur to me until just now how much sense that makes because of the clones.
Yeah, that's true.
And he's also a huge prequel fan, I believe. Oda?
Yes.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yep.
Oda.
So misguided.
Hi, George Lucas here again.
Get out of here, George.
I'm just okay. Bye.
Thank you.
We do know that almost every One Piece arc since Alabasta has included WMDs, so we know that Oda is a fan of human atrocity.
Yeah, that's true.
Actually, George, get back in here. No, I'm kidding. All right, next question comes from Liam Tasker, who said, we last saw Lola in Water 7, but this was before the wedding was announced. Do you think she will appear in this arc? I feel like that's a long trip for her to take.
Yeah.
That way.
I would love for it.
That'd be cool.
And we've seen her since the time skip in the Decks of the World. She's in Water 7, and as a pirate, it's going to be hard for her to get across the red line. But even with the going down to Fishman Island, maybe, but unlikely, I think.
We actually got a question via our Contact Us page, which I guess you could do, but I would encourage you just emailing us in the future. But I want to read it because it's also, good question. And it comes from Saudi Arabia. I'm going to mispronounce your name, Hatem. I mispronounce everything, so it's okay, I think. And he said he's currently studying in the United States. And he was introduced to us by Rogers Base, who he gives his condolences for his recent loss, as do we. And I have not missed an episode ever since. And so he says he has 2 questions for us. First, when do you think your next call-in show will be? And second, do you think that Germa's clones are going to respond to Sanji's commands like a loophole here? They've been programmed for that.
I didn't think about that.
It's certainly really possible. I like that idea.
Yeah, I really like that idea. Anyone else like that?
I like that idea.
Thank you.
It's a good idea.
Yeah.
What about a call-in show, Zach?
That might be a little bit, since we got a lot of Matsuri-Con content, and usually we would do the call-in shows, when we're off. But maybe
since the last one went completely tits up, I think that we should, just have another one.
Wow, that's really sugarcoating that.
Well, some of the Matsuri-Con content isn't that long. We could do like a 1-hour call-in.
Yeah, we'll do a call-in at some point.
Hopefully by the end of the year.
Oh, definitely by the end of the year. There'll definitely be one more before the year is up. We usually do a maximum of 4 a year. We've been pretty busy this year, though, and we've had a lot of content for you guys. We'll figure it out. Yeah.
I would just like to say about the previous question where you guys were kind of going over where Lola was geographically. I really like that this is a series where this can be even a debate, and rather than just doing the typical cartoon magic of who cares, they can show up wherever they want to. You guys are actually sitting here and debating, because of the world that's been built, whether or not a comic character is able to make this swim.
That's why this podcast is 2 hours every week.
no, but I think that's a testament to the material and to the analysis. So,
well, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, bringing it back to that, though, I think it would be nice to see like a reunion between Lola and her father, and possibly Chiffon. But Lola might have just served her purpose already with the Viver card.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, the thing is, like, if you're going to bring her up in the arc, so if she's going to form some part of it, I feel like Oda would not be content to just bring up her name. So I would love for her to show up, just because that's some of the stuff that Oda does best. But like, if she doesn't, then I feel like he's definitely going to hammer it. We're going to get 1 or 2 more points where it's like, oh, thank you, Lola, for this, thing, or another little flashback to that scene, or something like that.
There's a loophole, and that's called the transponder sale. And they could talk to her that way if they need to confirm something, or I don't know, if something happens.
She ran away.
Did she leave one with them?
I mean,
no,
but I mean, can't you figure out how to contact her?
She left them her digits.
Her digits, exactly. I bet she left it with Frankie.
Just in case he changes his mind.
He's just too super for her, though. Anyway, let's move on to Reddit. What do we got this week, Steven?
Okay. Well, I'm going to start off by addressing we got some comments from some first-time comments from a listener called Winchgreen, who had
not Windscreen.
No, not Windscreen. It was Winchgreen, who had some very, very, very lengthy thoughts on Sanji, and prefaced that it wasn't necessarily meant to be read on the podcast because it is so long.
Thank you.
So yeah, so if you're interested, you can go on our Reddit at reddit.com/r/One Piece podcast and look for the episode 437 piece together, I should say, thread to check them out. But they did have a little follow up where they were noticing some of our, I guess, selection topics or selection trends in the piece together, where which types of questions do we go over. And I think they were a little upset necessarily that a lot of the longer, more serious kind of theory-based questions either were ignored or, we would bring them up and then, have pretty short answers. Whereas a lot of the silly stuff like which genre of music do you think each Straw Hat listens to gets, a minute or two of answers. And, I don't necessarily want to speak for the rest of the group, but I think one of the difficulties of this is the limited time that we have to put together this show. And, for all the hours that we actually record, there's even another one or maybe two of all the editing that we do and, just kind of making sure everyone's together at the right time and technical difficulties and just everything adds up. And so we can't necessarily spend time studying a lot of these. We do some quick kind of, okay, this looks good. No, we don't want to answer this sort of stuff just to keep the piece together at a reasonable length. But it's also kind of hard to necessarily wrap your head around some of the really long ones. And that's a lot of times why we just don't even read them, because it's going to take, 5 minutes just to get everybody to understand what is being mentioned. And, sometimes there isn't really much more that you can add. A lot of questions that are a little more easy to answer, oftentimes we have already talked about them on the manga recap because, it ties into stuff that a lot of people would think about the episode. And if it's something that we didn't go over, chances are it may be something that is very unlikely that Oda will implement. And therefore, it's like, okay, well, this isn't going to happen. So, how much can we really spend talking about it? And as well as the fact that, this is kind of the fun part of the podcast. So getting to make jokes about, who the Straw Hats' favorite, presidential candidate is are, they're more rewarding at this point because we're kind of in the home stretch and we're just having fun.
Yeah. And to be fair, I just want to add one little thing. I think Steven said that very well. Just that we read most of the questions and most of them are silly, which we like, which I personally enjoyed, going through.
It's like Oda and his SBS questions.
Yeah.
You'd rather prefer the does his dick stretch? Yeah.
Well, okay,
Yes.
don't send us too many of those, but we like a mix of things, So
Right.
we love some of the the big ones, but it's also nice to have some crazy little hypotheticals in between that we don't really have to think about too much. And it's also just kind of hard to convey via audio sometimes those longer theories, even if they're fantastic, which often they are.
Well, as a long-time listener, first-time caller, I would just say, I really appreciate when there's silly questions because then you just get the hosts vibing, and when they're having fun, I'm having fun. So, I think theory questions are great, but I think you're right. I think that's a difficult thing to wrap your head around, and if you just get a silly question, everybody can just sort of throw a couple answers out at and just move on to the next one. I think that works just fine.
So let's take only the most serious questions here, Stephen. What do we got?
So Dream Eater says, what's the favorite genre of music for all the Straw Hats? No, Dream Eater's question is, has it been explained why Sanji was picked to marry into Big Mom's family as opposed to any of his other siblings? Was it just because he's already a pirate? And actually, another member, Captain Bolton, answered, I think it's because he was previously considered worthless by Judge, and so this is finally a use for him. And I would definitely agree. I think we would all agree.
Yep.
Yes.
That is the case. It is the finding a worth where there had previously been none from Judge's experience.
Good answer, Captain.
Judge's perspective. So we'll move on to Prince of Assassins. It says, hey, OPP. So One Piece has a ton of speeches, and there are the big ones everyone knows, like Hero Look's speech, Blackbeard's speech at Jaya, Usopp's speech at Alabasta, and Doflamingo's in Marineford. What are some of your favorites of the lesser remembered ones? Which underrated speeches move you or you are still able to quote? And I think Casey actually mentioned one in the start of the show.
And I have another, so I'm going to go ahead and just read it.
All right.
The flower of friendship can bloom even in hell. Now the petals that flower will be scattered upon the rolling bosom of the sea. One day I will make that flower bloom again. Oh, come my way, Mr. Tu Bon Clay. Mm-hmm. No regrets.
Yeah.
I mean, he hit the big ones.
Tom's speech.
Yeah.
Tom's
Oh,
speech.
yeah.
That's a good one.
I'd say most of the flashback speeches are fantastic. Even like a more recent one, Corazone's, I think. I don't know if you call that a speech, but at least, what he said to Law, I thought was probably one of the best parts of that flashback.
The follow-up of that with Sengoku, where he says, "Don't ever attach a reason to the love you receive." I thought that was an incredible line. It's so good.
Absolutely, it does. I like anything. Well, Zoro has a bunch of really good ones. Like when Chopper is crying over the fact that he has to, go to Foxy's crew. Zoro says something like, "Tighten up your fundoshi,"
right,
and act like a man or something like that. And his what he says to Luffy when Luffy's like, "Oh, Usopp, we should just ask him back," and he's like, "Don't do that. I'd rather leave the crew than follow a captain who makes such blind, decisions without, rationalizing them," or something like that. Ed knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's first mate Zoro right there.
Yeah.
That's when they were toward the very end of that.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like that.
And Usopp's apology is very heartfelt. Makes me cry every Tim.
Yep.
So.
That's a lot of Tims. What's next?
All right. Salem Iraq wonders, do you think there can be fishmen based on the sky fish from Skypiea? And if yes, would regular fishmen evolve to be sky fishmen, or would skyfish evolve to become sky fishmen? I don't know
very complicated.
how they evolved in the first place.
Well, we should ask Saul Sky Fishman. I'm sure he could have a few. I
like that. I like that idea. And why the hell not? Oda's we think about like with especially Zoan fruits, for example, we base them in our world. Oh, there's a Zoan for a lion. There's a Zoan for dinosaur, whatever. But you also forget, it could be all of Oda's creation animals could also have devil fruits for them too. And,
that's true.
And for fishmen, the same thing goes for that. There could be sky fishmen. There could be.
Yeah, I like the idea of maybe a flying fish too, because we've seen the flying fish riders.
Yeah. I want to see some flying fish. That's all I want to see.
Or better yet, speaking of Zoan types that reflect Oda's creations, I would like to see a banana dial fruit or a transponder snail fruit.
Oh my god! Yes, that.
Like a guy who's a transponder snail man. Do you know how ridiculous he must look like?
He would look like Doug. Transponder snail man.
Oh, like transponder quail man. I get it.
No, okay.
That was okay. That was okay, Zach. Thanks for playing though.
I want the transponder snail man to have snail shell shaped, earmuffs.
Oh my god, yes, right? That'd be so good. Or like, and he would, and part of the thing about being having transponder snail powers is that you're also somewhat telepathic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now I really want to see this. That's all. What's next, Steven?
All right. None Easy says, hey guys, first time listener, long time caller. I'm not sure that's how it works, but last week, dude brought up the fact that the Germa clones or the technology behind them might have been around for a very long time, since the kingdom itself has been around for a long time as well. This week, we learn that Vegapunk and Judge worked together in the past. Vegapunk is clearly known for being a technological genius, with his innovations being heralded as way too advanced for the present era. Do you think that maybe Vegapunk and Judge learned about or adapted the cloning technology, perhaps along with other inventions from either the Ancient Kingdom or one of the moon civilizations? Could be the same thing, by the way. This might explain why the cloning technology might be so old but advanced. Creating life is obviously a huge shock to Sanji when he hears about it, so it's not a common thing in the present day. And Judge/Vegapunk perhaps perfected the cloning formula to produce Sanji and his siblings. I mean, reading that, I forget, we may have like posited this at some point, but you remember all the stuff that has been said about Roger having, being able to hear the voice of all things and like somehow being able to communicate with the past. If that's kind of related to what Vegapunk is, that he is also a scientific genius, and so he's able to get this ancient knowledge and put it to use somehow.
I forgot to mention this during the manga recap, and it's related to this. It's just that my idea was that the bloodline elements were called that and not DNA because they come from the bloodline of maybe the Ancient Kingdom or whatever it was. That it's supposed to. I'm probably reading way too far into it, but
it depends on what the is that literal translation, Stephen? Bloodline.
Yeah, yes, it is bloodline.
Or what I mean is just though, like the kind of something from an ancestral, something that's carried on in the same way, kind of the will of D is carried on. So maybe mapping the genome in the way that you map humanity's history, implying that there's also that fold to it. I think could be very interesting, which is kind of, I think, what the listener where he's going, that it's existed.
It's a good thing that Oda's not trying to actually like do the science, as Steven said much earlier in the show.
Also true, yeah. But I think he might be adding his own element to, the
science is whatever you want it to be, man.
I mean, it's
that's right.
What it sounds like here is
Dr. Spaceman.
Spaceman. What they say though, kind of here is, I don't know. I like it adding its own element to it too. I think Oda would, it's not just the Genome Project; it's the Genome Project Plus, whatever it is. Anyway, please keep going, Stephen.
All right, Miguel Duenas wants to know if he is, first of all, is commenting from Colombia and wants to know, what do you think? What you in the One Piece community think about Oda foreshadowing many things and planning them ahead? I think that most of the time he knows how to connect things that he already wrote years behind, and that's why they don't affect the story in a bad way. But of course, I imagine that he could put some foreshadowing in the story. So I guess just a question about how much do you think Oda plans out ahead, and how much do you think he improvises?
Well, don't we have an answer for this kind of already? I think Greg, you said something last week, I think, about this.
We know a lot about Oda's like his habits and the way that he does plan things. Like, for example, we know through photos of his workplace and like stuff that he mentions that when he has ideas for an arc, he keeps like a sketchbook where he just jots down ideas. And like if you get the art books, the color walks, and you look in those sketch things, you can see how he's kind of workshopping ideas, and you can see certain things that did appear in the story and certain things where it's like he clearly moved on from that original draft and stuff like that. So there are definitely things that he knows about certain arcs that he wants to do, and probably cool things like certain moments that he wants, like, I want, so-and-so to have a really dramatic moment here, or, something like that. But a lot of the stuff, definitely week to week, a lot of the stuff is, he's just coming up with it on the fly. And, he always wants to himself be surprised by something in the story. So he never has like the exact chapter plotted out in his head before he starts drafting it. There's always some improvisation in terms of just coming up with it right on the spot. And, I'm sure that's how most authors work in that respect. But it's definitely a mix of the two. And I guess the more interesting thing is just debating like specific things like, okay, this thing that he brought up in volume 70, like you could consider this one scene in volume 16 to be referring to that. Like, do you think that's deliberate? Was he foreshadowing that, or did he just pluck that from the backstory to expand upon now? And those, I think we'll probably never know, but that's some of the fun stuff I think to speculate about.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's evident that Oda definitely has story beats like prepared ahead of time. I'm sure. I would wonder. I mean, like, I'm sure Greg might have an answer for this, but if I were Oda, I would need an intern to just have like a wiki at the ready, or just to keep constant notes as to what's going on. Or like, oh, did I ever do this? Oh, yes, you did. It was volume X and page Y. Like
that
yes,
would be Greg if there were.
Yeah.
We know that like authors like George R.R. Martin do this because he's said before that he forgets half the characters he sets up and then goes to fan sites and gets their input. So
that's like sounds like something that Toriyama would do.
Yeah, I honestly can't.
Oda has his books with him, so he has like all 80 volumes on the desk with him, from what I recall.
That's
from
true.
Some images. So, and he has little notes and tabs in them, so you could go back to them. But for issues like what you mentioned, I feel like the internet's a pretty good resource. Yeah,
He's just superhuman.
Maybe
he's a Germa modified being.
I think it's clear. Yeah.
GMO stands for Germa modified organism. Like,
Odaganism.
Every 5 minutes, he has to go back to the factory to get straightened out for a week.
He's a manga organism designed only for comics.
MODOK, yes.
Very nice. We'll go on to Super Dubes, who first points out Super Dubes was the one who mentioned that crazy, extremely in-depth purported spoiler for the rest of the series, and was a little affronted that I think he got the impression that we thought that he believed it necessarily. I think he wanted to get our thoughts on it, but I don't know. We just don't really hold truck with nonsense spoilers.
No,
but he wanted it to be a warning. Yes, he wanted it to be a warning to others. And but the actual question is, are any of you as frustrated as I am that Oda seems to be just ignoring some of these story threads he started in favor of Sanji? Don't get me wrong, I love Sanji. I just think that we need to know the fate of Jinbei, what happened in the fight between Cracker and Luffy. Did they fight all night long and they're still fighting, or did one of them win? I'm sure that when we get back to them, it will be worth it. I just can't stand not knowing.
Oh, well, I wish Steve was on this podcast right now, because boy, would he let it go. Like he would chew you out, Super Dubes. Because I'm sorry, go Casey.
No, I just wanted to say I think I don't miss that stuff right now. I know we'll get back to it, and I understand the frustration of wanting to know these more immediate things. But I really do feel like the year of Sanji is about to come to a close, month-wise.
Yeah.
And I think this is probably the first real progression we've seen these last few weeks into the Sanji I've been dying to see for years now.
Yes.
So years worth of content anyway.
Yeah, this has basically been like, hey, remember Sanji? Remember when he wasn't, the butt of every joke? Remember when he was like a good character? So I'm fully with you there. This has been a long time coming, and it's almost like, it's about time.
It's also been a nostalgia trip for certainly older fans, like most of us on the podcast, where it's just seeing the older material again. It's just been really cool. And Sanji is just a character we've had around since just about the beginning. And seeing him kind of rectify some of the mistakes he made, and also just seeing a lot of his backstory being filled in, because if you think about it, I mean, he had a backstory, but we didn't really know his backstory until this point.
Yeah,
it's amazing that he's lacked so much in development over the course of this series.
True.
Like whenever what was it? I think it's Pirate Warriors 3 or one of those games, and they show like iconic moments for all the characters, and Sanji's is mostly Baradier. Like
accurate.
Yeah, it's also, I think, worth pointing out that this is something that you pretty much have to deal with in every arc, but it's also been even more difficult in the recent arcs, is that there isn't necessarily a perfect time to start a flashback. Like there always has to be tension in place before the flashback begins, so that once you're done with it, that will tie more heavily into the resolution of that tension. And every time when a flashback starts, you may be looking forward to it, but it always leaves other plot threads unanswered and hanging. And I think particularly starting in Dressrosa, and Zoe had a lot of kind of fractured flashback storytelling, is just that there are so many story threads going on right now that there is no ideal time to have that. You always have to have something being like, wait, let me just pull you out of this, like right in the middle of something, because if you think about all the storylines that are going on, like he said, Jinbei, Luffy and Cracker, what's going on with Brook and Pedro,
the mirror dimension.
Yeah, the mirror dimension.
And if this is a multi-chapter flashback, we're going to get something like what we got on Fishman Island, reminding the readers, oh, this is where we were here, and here when we get out of it.
Right.
So prepare yourself for that as well.
I'm guessing it's not going to be as lengthy as something like Luffy's flashback or even the Tiger Fisher or Fisher Tiger flashback. I'm hoping. I hope it's not that long.
It's not a frog, it's a hippo. Anyway, what's next?
Yeah. We'll move on to Liquid Gaimon, who wants to know, fuck, marry, kill, Germa 66, Doctor with the giant lip. So Doctor Underlip.
It's Baron von Underlip, yes.
Underlip with an umlaut, yeah.
And there goes us trying to be kid-friendly, but go on.
Hotel Face. That was early.
Jaya.
With Stelly.
Oh, with Stelly, right? Hotel Face guy. Hotel Face.
Hotel Face.
Hotel Face is.
No, he had a hotel beard, right?
Let's not go into it too far.
No. It was definitely a face. And then lastly, Charlotte Perospero.
Oh, God.
Dude, do you remember your voice?
I hate this game.
I don't remember Perospero's voice. I don't know what I was trying to do.
You did some kind of like coo.
Oh,
No, that was.
I don't know. Definitely Mary.
Let's do FMK and not the actual word as much as possible.
Yeah,
I promise people.
Yeah, definitely marry the one from Big Mom's family, because that's a good family to be in.
Wait, did he just do fuck Marry Kill? He did fuck Marry Kill for 4 different characters.
Oh, I give up.
3.
Right?
No, it's 3.
Oh, he said Germa 60s. I thought he meant like all of Germa 66. No. I'm like,
no.
That's a lot of fucking. That is a lot of fucking, sir. I'd be exhausted.
That's an unpleasant experience no matter which one you pick.
Yeah. No, that's for sure. Let's see here. Unterlip, Perospero, or Hotel Face. Well,
Mary have a good job, No.
I don't want to be involved in Big Mom's family. That's too sticky. Also, Perospero is a sticky person. You know what? Underlip seems like a nice fellow. Maybe marry Underlip. Underlip, and then fuck Hotel Face, and then kill Perospero.
Okay, do we have to do this for everyone?
All right. Yeah, no, that's fine.
I abstain.
Okay. Anything else this week?
Yeah, we got a few more. Almost done. Black Northwind says, I think I found out as why Big Mom might have been surprised when her hat informs her that Cracker defeated Luffy. Back in Fishman Island, when Luffy introduced himself to her via the transponder snail, she refers to him as Garp's grandson at first. This might allude that either somewhere in the past she and Garp have crossed paths, or she generally knows how powerful he is and perhaps thinks that Luffy must also be as strong, if not more so.
Yeah.
Well, after Marineford, everybody was referring to Luffy as like, either the son of Dragon, because that became public knowledge at that point, and maybe they just kind of put 2 and 2 together with Garp. I don't know, but Big Mom's been around for a while, it seems. Anyway.
Yeah, she seems like she knows about the old generation at least.
Yeah,
she's definitely been in the old generation, right? I mean, like
I would think
it's been around that long.
Back in her day, everybody knew this.
Yeah.
I think except for even Kaido included, I think all the 4 emperors have been involved in the prior generation. Shanks was probably the youngest, not probably, definitely, during that whole period. Roger's whole period, as far as we know. Anything else?
Yeah.
Anyone?
Last, we'll go with Gentleman Bastard 12, who has a question for Minovsky. What are your top 5 favorite One Piece arcs and characters, and why?
Oh my gosh. Okay.
You weren't on our arcs of consequence, but I guess
No, I actually listened to all those episodes though in preparation for the show. No, I thought that was a really great set of shows. That and the total arc manga recaps. So I did listen to those episodes. Really well done. So let me think. All right, so my favorite is Impel Down. I said that before. That you get really great Bon Clay content. You get the return of Buggy, Crocodile, Mr. 3. Just a lot of great characters there. You get the tremendous dungeon art. You get the Guardian Beast designs, which I think are fabulous. And again, Magellan, who's probably one of my favorite underused villains, who I'd love to see more of. So Impel Down is my number 1. Number 2 is Alabasta, actually. Alabasta I hold in high regard. I think, this isn't just my showing favoritism for a favorite character, but for a long time, Sanji versus Bon Clay was my benchmark for great One Piece fights. I thought that was really well choreographed and just nice to look at. And of course, I think that was the arc where Oda really showed that he could do an epic. And it really sort of was a game changer for what the series had been to that point. Number 3 would be Ineos Lobby and Water 7, because I feel like you'll be executed on the spot if you don't list those somewhere within the top 3.
You're correct, yes.
We'll just do 3. Okay, so yeah, characters, Bon Clay, Ivankov, Frankie, so my Kazuki Yao quota is covered, Buggy the Clown, and I'm going to go with Magellan. I'm going to give him the 5th spot.
Good.
Right.
He needs that spot. So that does it with Reddit, right, Steven? So let's move on to
Peace the tweet. Yeah.
that piece. The tweet was so powerful, your computer almost broke.
It almost braked itself.
It almost braked itself. Okay, Ed, go ahead.
All right. First question comes from Frank Full Metal, who asks, "My friend and I were talking, and we think that we'll see Gin at Baradier if Germa 66 tries to get Zeph. What do you think?"
Interesting idea, I guess.
It brings Gin back into the story without actually, getting him into the Straw Hats.
Yeah.
But why would he go all the way back to Baradier?
Do you think
he never left?
Do you think Gin's going to show up here? Like, since we are going through Sanji stuff?
I think that'd be overkill. Too much.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
with that,
I really like the idea of bringing back some of the secondary characters from that arc, like Johnny and Yosaku as well. But I don't think we're actually going to go there and see that, because I think it's just a threat, and I think it's too involved to actually have scenes there, as part of the ongoing arc. It's just a little too much.
Yeah, it's nice to think of Baradier as like his reform program, though. I'm done with this life of crime. They were nice to me here, so I'll just go be a busboy for a while.
That's true. That's true. I like to think though that we're probably done with the surprise appearances of old characters, and I kind of hope so anyway, just because Dressrosa was just a whole lot of that. Or maybe I'm just thinking of the Sabo thing.
What's next, Ed?
Next one comes from Quip Quest, who has, of course, Zach's character from the dub in his image. He'd offer more.
Yeah, they do.
Who asks if Funimation could only dub one more movie or special, what would it be other than movie 6? Because that's too easy.
That is too easy, because that's
maybe Film Gold as well, because that's also.
Oh, I've never seen movie 9, and I hear great things, and I would like to see that.
Oh, wow.
I'd like to see Brina do that. Yeah. Brina's very, very good.
Movie 9, yeah. I really like the second movie a lot, but it's so short. It's like 50 minutes. Yeah.
Not the Django special? You wouldn't pick the Django special?
Dude, that thing, Django's barely in it.
It's okay.
I like the Django special, but it's mostly a Euro pop song.
All right. Next one comes from Martin Linvid, who asks, "Was the Amazing World of Gumball created by Big Mom?" Does anyone know what he's talking about?
It's a show. It's a show
Cartoon Network program.
Yeah.
It's about is it a rabbit or a fish named Gumball?
Yeah, it's weird. It's got like a weird sort of animation style where they use a lot of photo, I don't know. Photos.
So we'll just say yes.
All right.
Shutterstock.
Next one, Sis16 says, today is the 1 year anniversary of my subscription to Shonen Jump, and it's all thanks to you guys. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Sweet.
Great. Tell your friends.
Yes.
Yeah.
Friend of the show, Joe, who we met at MatsuriCon, says, hey, Casey, give us your best Bon Clay impression.
Putting you on the spot.
Yeah. I actually talked. I was looking through this hashtag earlier, so I did talk to Joe about this. But I don't feel up to trying to be the English version of Kazuki Yao. Even though he is my official translator, whenever I'm in Japan, my tweets are read out loud by Yao.
It's true.
So I'll say this. I will work on a Bon Clay voice, and should he return, and not should, when he returns, well,
Right.
When Bon Clay returns and gives the third sacrifice speech, I will happily do a dramatic reading here on the One Piece podcast.
All right.
All right.
There you go.
Our very own Sam, host of the Anime Recap, says, why is Yonji the only one brave enough to show both eyebrows? He's got to do something. He's the fourth. He's the youngest.
He's got to stand out. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Also, he works in the lab, so having the hair over the eye is just going to get in the way.
He's not into that 80s thing with the hair, right?
No,
Flock
just
of
into
seagulls.
puffy shirts.
Just the puffy shirts. That's a 90s thing. That's a 90s thing.
Which one of the brothers has a flock of seagulls? Technically, is that Ichiji? Is that a flock of seagulls?
The Ichiji has the emo flip over the front hair.
I don't know what the hell you'd call
I
it.
believe
Niji
Niji.
Niji is the flock of
is the
seagulls.
flock of seagull, yeah.
I think.
I don't quite know what you're referring to. But anyway, Ed, what's the next question?
No, yeah, that is Ichiji with the flock of seagulls because it goes down in the front.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Ichiji. Okay, next one comes from Second Neo IK, and do you think Sanji's ability to generate fire is because of the experiments done to him as a child, and that each of the Vince monks will have one element that they can use? Niji uses electricity, Reiju has poison. We don't know what the other two are.
Sparking, I think, was the other one. But
Yeah.
Well, it's electricity, right?
no, a sparking, I think, would be something like a spark, like an explosion, like a small explosion. Maybe his punches are explosive. I'm guessing. And he's red too, so.
They're Sentai villains, so sure,
Yep.
We don't know what color Sanji is yet. He's either yellow or black, I think.
Yeah.
Well, next time we have Joey on, we'll have his full analysis on that.
If he is yellow, then I hope everybody has color coordinated hair because of Sentai.
I'm gonna say because Sanji's the black sheep of the family, he's the black one.
Is that a Japanese does that term translate?
I think we've discussed this before.
Yeah, I don't know if there is a literal black sheep or black insert animal of your choice sort of thing for the Japanese language. I don't know. That is a good question. Maybe I'll look into that.
Dr. Valkyrie asks, have your opinions on Reiju changed at all? After this chapter, I feel she is more likely to ally with or suddenly help Sanji. A lot of us felt that way last week.
Yeah.
This sort of confirms what we were thinking then.
Yeah, for sure.
I think there are more mysteries for Reiju to yet be revealed. That's all I'll say.
Next up, here's one from Abigail Carbajal, who says, I really appreciate that you guys do this to the official release. Don't let the spoilers and such get you down.
It was getting me down earlier this week, but thank you for lifting me back up.
Summer Otaku asks, I heard a theory that Sanji's mom could be Vegapunk. Not sure I buy that. Have they ever specified Vegapunk's gender?
They did in this chapter.
Did they say he?
They said he repeatedly in this chapter.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, yes, in my translation, but yes, they have referred to him in a male context in Japanese, which is as any other translator of anime or manga can tell you, that is not always a guarantee because it is much easier to refer to things without gendered forms in the Japanese language. So,
like Hanji in Attack on Titan, I believe.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's everywhere. It's definitely a feature of the language that they use to great effect in terms of having those gender surprises, and that's why you see a lot of it in manga.
So here's a potential dumb theory question, real quick. Do you think it's possible that Reiju might be a clone of Mom?
Could be. I mean, if she was the zero test subject.
Yeah. I
That's
still don't
why
like
she died, maybe? Is this an Evangelion scenario?
Yeah, she's Ray.
That's what I was getting at.
Well, it's Ray Ju, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's do a little lightning round, Ed. Let's answer, quickly through these.
Oh, Sanji sounds like Shinji, by the way.
Okay.
So
I get it, Alex. Okay. Ed.
Nick the Annihilator says, I don't know about you guys, but I want Sanji to single-handedly defeat his whole family before Luffy gets to him. All right.
Me too.
I'm down.
Yeah.
Anime Lover 1491 says, you think that Sanji's mother is actually dead, or is Judge a big filthy liar?
Could be either.
I think he had a mother.
I think she's probably dead. Yeah.
I like the Evangelion scenario, actually.
Yeah,
So
now it's
many-
getting very creepy.
Oh my god.
I wouldn't put it past him, though.
No, I would not. Yeah.
All right, we've had enough Reiju questions here. If you were any type of mink, what mink would you be? We've answered this question, but Casey, what do you think?
Oh,
It's really what
Buffalo.
animal would. Oh, there, buffalo.
What's your mink sona?
I'm going to say buffalo.
All right.
Ooh, that's a cool one.
Okay, and finally, Monsieur Ray asks, "Will Garp quit the Navy?"
He kind of did.
He did already. He retired.
Yeah, he's retired.
Well, he's the inspector now, like the inspector general, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a diplomatic role. Anyway,
Him and Sengoku both have that. Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
but now they're relaxed and they're doing their own thing.
But I don't think they would quit the Navy entirely, because they still have that sort of hope for change within the government system, I think.
Hope and change, Garp and Sengoku. Anyway, thank you guys for answering those. Thank you for everyone out there for asking those questions. Why don't we round off the show?
Oh,
Why
I'm sorry, I figured it out. I have my 5 arcs.
All right.
Do it.
All right. So Impel Down, Alabasta, Water 7, Shabauri, because I love the confrontation with Kuma.
Mhm.
I think that's one of the strongest dramatic scenes in the series.
Yes.
And I'm going to run it off with Drum Island.
Good,
Ooh,
all good choices.
yeah, great choices.
Well done, Casey. Welcome to the crew. This has been episode 437 of the One Piece Podcast for Monday, September 26, 2016. Thank you all for coming on the show this week. Our cavalcade of guests continues next week, but unfortunately it is a Jewish holiday, so I will not be able to attend that. But Ed, you will be taking the helm for me there. And we have Nate Ming from Crunchyroll. He is a social media he's a social media guy there, and he's an editor for their columns and stuff. So check out that episode. It's going to be great. Hopefully I could stick my head in a little bit on that episode. We'll find out, but that's unavoidable, unfortunately.
Nate's a fabulous guy, by the way. I'm looking forward to hearing him.
Me too. I'll definitely be listening, even if I'm not necessarily there. But Casey, I want to thank you so much for finally getting you on the show. I'm so happy to finally have you on.
I am really, really happy that you guys had me. I wanted to give a quick thank you to both the One Piece podcast, your listener base, and the community in general. I've jumped into a lot of different fandoms, but I've never had a reception quite as warm as I got from the One Piece fandom. I find that tremendous, and it really made it easy to power through all of it, to just be able to talk to all of you guys. And I look forward to joining you weekly in the discussions now.
Definitely, yeah. We definitely wanted to have you back.
Yes.
And Steven, where could people find? Oh, actually, is there anywhere people could find you? Yeah, I should have said.
Yeah,
that.
sorry. You can find me on Twitter at Minovsky article. In addition to One Piece, I'm currently starting all of Gintama. Also reading Grappler Baki, Vagabond, and Vinland Saga, which is translated by somebody on this podcast.
Alex, good job.
Thanks, guys. It's really, really hard work, and it's really tough, especially when you don't know Japanese, but I do my best.
Steven,
Yeah, I like
ahead.
when you translate Viking words here and bubbles.
Steven, where can people find you?
Yes. You can follow me on Twitter at Translatosaurus. Actually, speaking of Vinland Saga, I think the next book is coming out. Maybe, I don't know if it's next month, but it may be November-ish, probably before the end of the year. So that will be exciting. Always worth it to plug those because they're such nice books. And yeah, follow me if you like. Ask me questions, whatever.
Alex.
Twitter, Tumblr, Vine, and Instagram at dude exclamation, all one word.
Vine?
Yeah, I'm on Vine. Fuck you.
Okay.
Let's see here. Listen to my other podcasts, 20 Minutes of Bullshit. We haven't had a new episode in a while. Steve's been very busy. He's the one who edits those. We have 4 in the can, though, so keep your eyes peeled. And listen to Toho Yaro with Joey Weiser and Scott Dryman and myself. Our next episode is going to be Hausu, which we just recorded, and that episode should be available October 1st on iTunes and our SoundCloud. And
was it comprehensible?
No. Well, listen to the podcast. You'll find out.
All right.
I had very, very many opinions. And really quick, November 19th in Brooklyn, Sunnyvale. It's a venue. Super Art Fight's coming to your town, New York. I might not be there, but the rest of the peeps will, and it's going to be a great time. So if you're in Brooklyn, New York, November 19th, I'm pretty sure that's the Saturday. Check out superartfight.com for details.
And Ed, where could the good people out there contact us?
Well, you are Zach_Logan on Twitter. I am Edward E. Fastizio. OnePiecePodcast.com, Twitter.com, YouTube.com, and Facebook.com/OnePiecePodcast. One Piece Podcast is our Skype name. OnePiecePodcast at gmail.com is our email address. OnePiecePodcast.tumblr.com for news updates and funny pictures. Reddit.com/r/OnePiecePodcast. Leave us some piece together there. You can subscribe on SoundCloud, subscribe on Google Play, subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes, or call us on our phone number. Zach?
And that phone number is 347-497-MAGI.
Magi.
That phone number again is 347-497-6254. Call anytime.
Anytime.
With your questions, comments, or your answers to the hazing questions to get into Germa Kappa Kappa. Thank you all for coming on the show this week. Again, next week we'll have Nate from Crunchyroll on, so make sure to tune in for that. The guests keep coming. Check out more about that at OnePiecePodcast.com. And until next week, my name is Zach.
My name is Ed.
And my name is Pooh Bear.
Thank you, Mr. Pooh Bear. We'll see you next week.
And my name is
everyone.
Alex.
Oh, goodbye.
Bye-bye.
No regrets.
Who cares?